This week we're in the largest Mediterranean country, the largest African country, and the home of rye, the music, not the bread. It's the music of Algeria. Algeria is a Mediterranean country in North Africa, a region historically known as the Maghreb. It's bordered by Tunisia, Libya, Morocco, the Western Sahara Territory, Mauritania, Mali, and Niger. Algeria has been home to the Berber people since Neolithic times. The Berbers are native to North Africa and have their own distinct languages and cultural heritage. Today, 99% of Algeria's population identifies as Arab Berber, a result of Arabs mixing with the native Berber population during the Arab conquest in the 7th century. But despite its ethnic homogeneity, Algeria has a long history of multiculturalism. In addition to the original native Berber people, Algeria has historically felt the influence of the Phoenician, Carthaginian, Roman, Byzantine, Vandal, Arab, Spanish, Ottoman, and French cultures. In 1955, Algerian poet Mufti Zakaria was imprisoned for his anti-colonial politics in French-governed Algeria. In prison, he wrote the poem Kasaman on the wall of his cell, using his own blood as ink. Just after Algerian independence, the poem, set to music by Egyptian musician Mohamed Fawzi, was adopted as the national anthem in 1963. The title Kasaman in Arabic or Tagalit in Berber means the oath or the pledge and refers to the pledge to revolt against colonial power. It's one of the few anthems to mention another country, referring to overthrowing French rule in the third stanza. The song is 66 bars long and is through composed, meaning that it has several different melodies that are not repeated to create form. Algerian art music kicked off between the 12th and 15th centuries with the introduction of Andalusian music. Andalusian music originated in the Emirate of Cordoba during the Al-Andalus period of European history, in which much of the Iberian Peninsula was under the control of the Moors. During the Christian Reconquista of Spain between the 12th and 15th centuries, Muslim and Sephardic Jewish refugees fled to Algeria and the rest of the Maghreb region, and brought their music along with them. This music was a distinctive Arab Andalusian musical tradition dating back to 9th century Iberia. Ziryab was an outstanding musician at the court of Baghdad, and when his talent began to overshadow his teacher, he was kicked out, eventually finding refuge in Cordoba. There, he became an icon in fashion, cuisine, hygiene, and music, even establishing a music school and developing his own principles of composition and performance. In Algeria, Andalusian music became the music of the elites. Musicians were trained to perform the music precisely and sing the structures of classical Arabic. As Algeria gained independence, the music became a source of national pride and was actively supported by the government as an element of cultural heritage. Today, most cities throughout Algeria feature an Andalusian orchestra. Algerian Andalus music will often be performed in a style called Andalusi Nuba, a suite form where one song leads directly into the next and usually lasts about an hour without pause. There were originally 24 Nuba, one for each hour of the day, but only 16 are still known in Algeria. Each Nuba is divided into 5 sections called Mizan that are based on rhythm, and all 5 Mizan appear in a specific order to complete the Nuba. Instruments used in Andalusian music include oud, rabab, darbuka, ganoun, and kamanche. Modern variants also include piano, bass, and cello, and rarely even banjos, saxophones, and clarinets. Some of the most well-known and most important styles of Algerian music straddle the line between pop and folk. A lot of times they started out as a folk tradition, but gradually transitioned into a pop music genre. Or they might be a pop music genre that draws on elements from several different folk music traditions. Let's take a look. One of the earliest of these cross-genre styles was Chabi. Chabi means folk in Arabic, and it's a mix of Arab, Berber, and Andalusian elements. When it first appeared in the late 1800s, it was relegated to machachat, cannabis dens. It was seen as too low class, a contrast to the elite Andalusian music, and covered themes like money and love, loss and friendship. But by the 1950s, helped by popular performers like El Haj Muhammad Al Anka, Chabi became the people's music throughout the Maghreb and was performed at weddings and religious ceremonies. In its more traditional form, a single song can last upwards of 30 minutes and consists of verses of poetry interspersed with instrumental passages performed on string instruments such as the mandol. As it grew in popularity, it also became commonplace to see the vocal line set against orchestral arrangements of a dozen or more musicians. As Chabi grew in popularity, it mixed with and inspired new styles of music, and one of the most important has to be Kabyle. Kabyle is a Berber folk pop tradition that takes its name from the Kabylia region of Algeria, which has historically been a very important place for Berber identity in the country. When France invaded and began establishing its presence in Algeria in 1830, the mountainous Kabyle Berbers were treated with special regard, and after French colonialism, Kabylia became a stronghold against marginalization by an Algerian government seeking to unify Algerian culture into a single pan-Arab identity. Modern Kabyle is often known as Kabyle New Song, a style that was born among the Kabyle diaspora in France, seeking work in Europe or displaced as a result of post-colonial policies. These Kabyle musicians were re-establishing the Berber roots of their music. Many of the popular Kabyle songs of the 1970s were Kabyle lullabies and women's songs, restyled into the rock-influenced new song style. Lyrics were often very provocative and openly chastised the government for what the Kabyle people saw as a suppression of their culture. And finally, we get to Rai. For many people throughout the French and Arab-speaking world, Algerian music is synonymous with Rai music. It's become a dance genre that's hugely popular in dance halls throughout Europe and the Middle East, but its origins are steeped in Algerian history. Rai was born in 1920s Oran, a port city that was a mix of Jewish, French, Spanish, and Arab cultures. The earliest form of Rai was actually a genre sung by Maghrebi women in Algeria's urban centers, in a tradition known as Medahas, women that sing for only women, or Cheka, women that sing for men. These singers were not trained in classical poetry, and so instead would sing about everyday life, starting each performance with the phrase, "This is my opinion," which is where Rai, which means opinion in Arabic, gets its name. Singing for men and dressing the way they did was not considered acceptable in society, so most women changed their names and would not let their faces be shown. That is, until performers like Cheka Romiti, born in 1923, began performing extensively. Her lyrics were considered quite risque for the time, focusing on poverty, alienation, sexuality, drinking, love, and death. And this began a tradition of controversial lyrics that has always been intertwined with Rai music. The 1980s was the height of international success for Rai music, led especially by Cheb Khaled. His music became popular throughout the Arab world and reached top charts in France, Belgium, Spain, India, and Pakistan. His music has been used in Bollywood productions and was featured in the 1997 movie The Fifth Element.